everybody, and welcome to Gaining Experience. My name is Corey, and this is the RPG, the role-playing guru, Howard. In this show, we talk about role-playing tropes, how to get better at role-playing games, all sorts of things devoted to tabletop role-playing games. And today's topic, well, first off, let me tell you, this is a live show, so if you're watching live, please give us a comment. We'd like to hear. This is a conversation. We want to talk. If you're watching this as a recorded show, leave a comment too. We'll get to it next episode. Howard, what is the topic for today?
And we were going to talk about how the monsters of D&D have changed over the years, what they were originally, what they are now. Are they better? Are they worse? Not just how the text of them, but also in some cases the very imagery is completely different than what it used to be.
They've gone through a metamorphosis.
They really have, some of them, and some of them are the exact same.
Well, before we do that, let's do a little game I call I Did Not See That Coming.
Right.
I'm thinking of putting a little theme music to that, to the graphic. Of course, the theme music will be equally bad.
You got to do it with a kazoo?
Oh, that would be excellent. I really could. How this game works is I come up with a plot idea. Howard makes does a twist to it, and then Howard gives his plot hook, and I have to give a twist to that. It's a little improvisational. It's thinking on your feet. You got to do that a lot of times as a game master. So let's get that started. I'll start. So this is a D&D plot.
All right.
What happens is you and your party are hired by a half-orc to go destroy this wizard, because the wizard is trying to he is trying to destroy the orcs.
Okay.
What is the twist?
So this half-orc is hired you to destroy the wizard that is going to just genocide orcs.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is
All right, I want
correct.
to make sure I understand the premise. All right. When you get there, you get to the wizard's castle or whatnot. You confronted this wizard. You find out that the orcs are currently planning a horde-style raid over a human city, and that they're guilty of so many things in the past. Genocide seems horrible, but at the same time, if you stop him, tomorrow the city that you just came from will be gone.
That's cool. I love it.
All right. Okay. All right. I'm going to go with a more classic tale. All right. You and your party arrive in a city, and the complaint that the people have, that they come to you and say, "Oh, great adventurers, come and save us." A man came and got rid of our rats for us with a flute, but he charged us more money than we could afford to pay him, and we tried to explain that. Instead, he used his flute to let away our children. We want you to go get our children back. Unfortunately, of course, there's always a twist. What goes wrong in this story?
They go to see the person who fluted the children away, and fluted.
All right.
And you find out that the person who did this amazing feat is divine. It's an angel, and the angel says that it was a test to the village. The village obviously has the money for this. But he wanted to see the test of character of the village, and this is a divine punishment. These children are better off someplace else.
Well, that's one that's going to get your party to sit around and argue around the table of what to do next. Which is truly my favorite part as the DM, is just watching them just bicker over the right thing to do. That means you've done a good job of presenting a moral choice. All right, so we're ready to move on to
the main topic.
What's happened to our monsters?
Yeah, let's do the main topic.
Okay. I'm going to start by talking about if you've played World of Warcraft or anything like that, you're probably familiar with the Horde. The Horde is not a new concept, especially not in D&D. It's a great descriptor for all of the original monsters, which were basically the reskins of the same monster. You have orcs and goblins, and hobgoblins and bugbears, and kobolds and gnolls, and ogres and trolls, and they basically all worked together. They all spoke kind of the same language. In fact, in original D&D, it was just called chaotic, and they were evil creatures, and they just came for you in a horde. And the only thing that really let you tell one from another was they had some mild differences how they looked. Whereas kobolds looked kind of like reptilian, dog-faced people that were pretty short, and goblins were just short, orc-looking people, and orcs were big, orc-looking people. And orcs, by the way, pig faces, not the more primal look that like World of Warcraft has now and current orcs in D&D
Hey,
have.
don't forget the bugbears.
Oh yeah, the bugbears. Well, the bugbears are giant, furry, not all buggy,
No, not
but
at all
certainly
buggy.
berry. Um, and then Gnolls pretty much always look the same description wise. The text always said they looked like hyena like men. Ogres, of course, looking like giant orcs, and trolls being these in the original D&D horribly emaciated big green guys that were just gross looking
Trolls in
and covered
D&D,
in
like,
warts and very green.
here's the thing. D&D was based a lot off of Tolkien. And you can tell because they had halflings, which were the other name for hobbits in.
They were the racial slur for hobbits. One of
Yeah, they
my
were the
favorite.
racial slur for exactly. Orcs come from Tolkien. They don't exist in fantasy stories or anything
That's
until
true.
Tolkien. So it's obviously based a lot. They took a lot from Tolkien and put it in there.
That's true. That's
And the elves before Tolkien, elves were little guys that made shoes or worked in Santa's workshop, and Tolkien made them like these immortal, beautiful beings that can walk on top of snow and all sorts of stuff.
oh yeah, the Mary Sue elf was totally Tolkien's idea of these beautiful, willowy, perfect people that were magical. That was absolutely his reconstruction of the original fairy tale elf. And I love the character. I love it using it in my D&D games. I have no grudge against that. But we're really talking about the monsters today
Let's
more than
talk
the
about the
elves.
monsters. Yeah. So, what monster? Let's start out with a monster that has gone through a pretty good change. What do you got?
Yeah, what do you do? Kobolds first?
Sure.
All right. So the kobolds, if you look at their original just the original artwork for them, they had these dog-like snouts, but they had scales and they had little horns sometimes. Um, but very they were very dog-like. In fact, it's even commented. I can't remember if it was Jeremy Crawford or Mike Morals, but one of them has even commented about the changes and how they went from dog-like to now being extremely reptilian. Other things for kobolds, though, is they initially had no real connection to dragons. Then eventually they started saying they were beard dragons, but it wasn't until now that kobolds are straight up going, "Oh, we're basically short dragonborn," and the dragonborn are like, "Says you."
There's all sorts of okay. So in Dungeons and Dragons now there are a lot of races that are got dragon in them. So you got your regular dragons, then you got your dragonborn, your kobolds, your half dragon, your dragonkin. Like they're
I think the half dragon is just like the great great grandfather of the average dragonborn.
I get, yeah, maybe.
I mean, that's the idea of dragonborn, isn't that they were descended from a dragon from a line of people eventually descended back to a dragon. So a half dragon would just be like the starter of one of them. Maybe two half dragons got together and were like, "Hey, you're blue, I'm blue. Let's make some blue dragonborn."
So
I don't really know how it worked. I wasn't there.
there's a lot of like different beings that are tied to dragons. But yeah, kobolds. Now there are winged kobolds.
The Urds have actually been around for a long time. They were initially introduced as the winged kobold. It was a rare thing, but I think they haven't actually changed that much. It's always been every once in a while a kobold's born with wings, and now it's still pretty much the same thing. But because they believe they're dragon born, essentially that they're related to dragons, it puts them even more close to their, I don't know, their family roots. Maybe that they get more of the prestige of, hey, I'm more dragon than you.
So when I was first starting out playing Dungeons and Dragons, I was playing second edition, and they were lizardy then. That's where they started their big evolution. And I watched an anime called Record of the Lotus War, and they fought kobolds in one of the episodes, and they looked like these guys, wolf creatures. And I thought, oh my god, these are amazing. They're nothing like the kobolds in Dungeons and Dragons. What happened? And apparently, there are kobolds in real mythology, and they were wolf, little like dog people.
But they were never massive.
They were never
I
that
think the
massive. No.
massive thing was strictly the Lotus War. All right, so would you want to move on from Knowles, or
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's do another thing
I mean,
that's
to Knowles, not from Knowles.
let's do another thing that like anime is staying true to its roots, but D&D has moved away from, and that's the orc. In anime, definitely orcs are pig people, and they started as pig people. Let me put up. So I guess they didn't really start as pig people. They started as kind of like these doggish, green doggish looking things. So here they are in the cartoon series. They had these big pink noses. They had the green skin, but they had these weird snouts. But over the years, they have changed. Uh, and even in third edition, they even had the upward nose, but they didn't look piggish at all. They were just like green brutes. And nowadays, they look like the orcs from Warcraft or Warhammer, or like the Western orc has changed so much. They're just big green barbarian tusk people.
I really remember them being piggish, but I'm looking at the pictures now because I brought up the YouTube so I can see too. Um, Maybe I'm wondering if we rewatch, maybe they made pig noises and that put that
Yeah, they
idea.
did make pig noises. I'm sure. Here's the cartoon again. But yeah, I'm sure they made pig noises, and I remember some books, I believe the fantasy forest books that were choose your own adventure, had art of the orcs, and they were super piggy in those. And I'm sure there are some adventures that had art of them that were more piggy and
Yeah,
less looking like
for
these.
me, when Return of the Jedi came out, the Gamorrean Guard in Jabba's palace was to me a bunch of fat space orcs, and that's all I could ever see them as. I'm like, if I want to play an orc in space, I'm playing one of those.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. They're orcs in space. They were the bad guys too.
And as if to keep with that theme, when that became a D20 system role playing game for Star Wars, you could play orcs, or not orcs, sorry, Gamorrean guards, and they had orc stats.
Yeah.
Their bonuses were their strength, and it was like, yep, this is basically an orc.
On a little aside here, on a little tangent, it's obvious in Return of the Jedi that Luke uses a force choke on the Gamorrean guards, and anybody who says different, even though Lucas film and the official stuff said no, that's not exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening.
That's what I always thought it was. I didn't know they ever denied it.
Oh yeah, they deny it,
Was it
100%.
around the same time they said that Han didn't shoot first? Because then you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. Exactly. Well, people didn't start really dissecting those films until the mid 90s to 2000s, and that's when the special editions came out, were like 1998 or somewhere around there. So once the hand shot first thing started up and the internet was created, now Lucas had to answer for their crimes.
and he could just say, hey, it's a rough world out there, or you're a galaxy. You gotta do what you gotta do. I don't
Gotta
see
do
why
what you
he
gotta
ever
do.
denied it.
So what else do
All
you
right.
got?
So let's talk about Gnolls. Got time for
Sure.
Gnolls?
Yeah, Gnolls. What are Gnolls? Is that
They're
where I hear that's where JFK got killed?
the grassy Gnoll. Yeah, you got to watch out for those grassy hyena people. No, okay. They've always been hyena men. It's all the description has always said they look vaguely like hyenas to they look exactly like bipedal hyenas. It's always had hyena in there. The real change for them isn't so much the picture, although it has changed. I mean, different artist interpretations. But what's really changed for them is their demonic origin, which they did not always have. Originally, their description made them sound exactly like goblins and orcs and all the other horde members. They were subterranean, except when you wanted them to be in your group that wasn't subterranean. They were happy to join in with trolls and orcs and goblins always. It was in third and fourth edition they started also worshiping the demon Yanagu, and then in fifth edition it actually says they were created from actual hyenas that were following Yanagu around in the prime material plane while he was slaughtering things because they wanted to eat his leftovers, and then they began to transform into these humanoid creatures that worship this thing as their god. And they continue to like do, even though he's not on the prime material anymore, they continue to do sacrifices and all this stuff to him, and he occasionally grants them powers, creating what's called the Fangs of Yanagu, which are demonically empowered hyena men or gnolls. And that is a huge evolution in their flavor, not so much in how they look and how they operate. They do seem to have dropped the Flynn Gnoll, which was a gnoll that was slightly smarter than the regular gnoll and used nunchucks. I'm glad that that's just been dropped. Oh, it was called a Flynn bar for some reason.
Yeah, I remember those now. Yeah. They were in
But
the Monsters Compendium. No, Humanoid Handbook.
they were, and the Flynn bar is described as two iron bars connected by a chain. So it's nunchucks. Why are they
We
using
should make
nunchucks?
Monk Knolls.
Monk Knolls. Yeah, that seems to have just fallen away. And I could be wrong. I haven't actually looked up what a Flynn bar is in reality, but they were called Flynn Knolls, and that's what they used was iron bars connected with a chain.
I do like fighting Knolls in the Capcom Dungeons and Dragons arcade game because they were like really huge and really gangly. They looked excellent in that game. You gotta
I
give it
like
to
the
Capcom.
I, I do know what you're talking about. I've seen those. Those are good. I also really like the Gnolls from World of Warcraft. If for anyone that's played it, Hogger, one of your first main bosses, it's a big ugly Gnoll, and there's a little secret in there. If you check out the tents that the Gnolls are camping with, and look closely at the tents, some of them they're made of stretched skin, and on a couple places you can see a human face as part of the skin that's stretched. And for World of Warcraft, I was like, wow, that's dark. That is dark. That's a person tent. They're sleeping in people. And it was my 8-year-old pointed that out to me, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't let him play WoW. I don't know.
Personally, I like when they add more. It don't necessarily change their outward appearance, but add more flavor to all of these things, like how they live, what they do, how their governments are, tribe structure, whatnot. All of that just makes things better for a role playing game, in my opinion.
It does. So we got a few more monsters to cover. They aren't really in the part of
Sure,
the general horde, but they're certainly interesting.
we got about 10 minutes.
All right.
Which ones you want to
Uh,
do?
how about the hook horror?
All right. Which graphic am I going to go to first?
The first one, I thought they were labeled 1 and 2. They're not.
Yeah, they are labeled 1 and 2. So I'll just go to
Go
the
with
first
1.
one.
Yes.
All right. Here we go.
All right.
There's the original guy with. What are we looking
Yeah.
at?
That is your classic hook horror. When I first was introduced to the game, I read about this creature. I thought it sounded fascinating, and I've never seen a DM use one against me, and I've never had the chance to use one. But they sounded amazing. Just these giant vulture-like people. They reminded me of like a Thundercats villain. And what I didn't know is in the Fiend Folio, where they first existed, it actually says in there that skin on them is an exoskeleton, and that they make these creepy clacking sounds in the dark in the caves that they live in, and it gives me this almost like bug-like idea of what they might look like. Fast forward just a little bit to what they've evolved into. By second edition, they were in fact bug-like. They drew them as looking completely bug-like, but right next to that picture that was super buggy were the words, "The hook horror is a bipedal underground dwelling monster that looks like a cross between a vulture and a man with hooks instead of hands." That doesn't look like a man at all.
It says on the toy that we're looking at there, hook horror vulture slash human monster.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is the bug stuff was in the original text, the clacking sounds, the exoskeleton, but they never said
Here,
bug.
let's
In
show.
the second edition, after that initial part about it being the vulture man with hooks, it then goes into more about the exoskeleton and that's like an insect. But as time progressed, they became more and more buggy. But I feel that overall, the best combination has been the fifth edition straight up giant creature with an obvious carapace on its back, big hooks for hands, giant beak, and while humanoid, they stopped saying it looked like a man because it
Look,
never really looked like a man.
I am is and isn't has commented that he genuinely misses everything about the second edition art style. And I gotta say, here, let me get this out of my way here. I have to say that the Monstrous manual from second edition had really great art in it. I mean, the hook horror we just saw that was second edition comes from that. It's
But yeah,
it is really good, and that same artist did most of the art in that book. A whole bunch of just beautiful artwork. That said, that book didn't come out for a long, long time. The monster manual for second edition was the Monster Compendium, which,
that's true. It was a lot of the same stuff, but it was in pages that you had to put into a binder.
yeah, you could buy the binder, and it would be like book 1, book 2, book 3, and then you buy the inserts. Like you could buy the Karatur Monsters Compendium and the Forgotten Realms, and they would have monsters for that area, and then you would put it into the book. Those, you'd open it up and they'd just be loose pages with holes in them, and you put them in the book wherever you wanted.
Yeah, it was back when they were being kind and not making you buy a new monster manual every couple of years because they're like, hey, we thought of a bunch of new monsters, buy it again. It's the special edition version, or it's Monster Manual 2, Monster Manual 3. It was just inserts for your original one. It was cheaper, it was kinder, and they got rid of that because they were like, hey, we're not making enough money.
Well, I also didn't like the fact that the turning the pages in a binder was rough on those pages, and yeah, they tore out very easily.
My trick was always to put tape on them and then repunch the holes and then do it.
Yeah, you could buy
And
those
then put
little.
them in there.
Remember those little circular, like they still sell those, right? The little circle stickers.
Yeah, that's still a thing in Office Depot, but my way is ghetto, and it's cheaper.
But yeah,
Because
I
you
really
find
missed
tape.
kind of that monster compendium. They were really, it was a really neat idea of how to put your monsters together.
It was.
And what was great about it too is if you created an adventure, you could open up the binder, pull the monsters out you want, put them to the side. You have the stack of what you just need. You can take the entire book. You don't need giant books everywhere. You just have the piece of papers that you need. Bing, bang, boom. So easy.
So this whole idea for this show originally came to me because I was looking at some of these stupid creations, the monsters that I was like, these are terrible. We should make these into our back of the book. Let's make fun of our role playing games for a moment. And one of the ideas I had was the Needle Man from the original Team Folio, page 67. And the reason was because it's a cactus that looks like a zombie and it throws its needles at you, and there's no explanation as to why, and it sounds really
Look,
stupid.
the Fiend Folio has a lot of losers in there, okay?
There's the flail snail, the adherer. There were some great ones.
But
The modron,
but it also
but
had
a lot of
nudity
them
in
have
it.
evolved.
It also had nudity in it, so you had to get it.
Oh well, yeah, but they all did. The monster manual had it, and I appreciate it. I'm not gonna lie, I was a kid, I was a boy, so but the Needle Man, when I looked into it, and I was like, when it was like, I better check, make sure they haven't done updated versions of him that I should also make fun of. And it turned out they did. I just didn't know it was the Needle Man anymore. He's in the monster manual under the title of Blights. And what blights are is they're the Needleman from Fiendfolio. It's just that there's an explanation now that they had involved a vampire and a stake, and the vampire's power went into the stake, and it grew, made the stake, the wood of the stake grow these plant creatures, and those are the different blights. And the Needleman is a part of that. He's the Needle Blight, and he still throws his needles at you, but now he has an interesting origin, and it makes some sense. And the art is so much better that you don't look at it and go, "This is the dumbest thing ever." You're just like, "Oh, okay, well that's kind of terrifying. Well, let's keep that in mind to screw the PCs later." And there are others like the flail snail, which originally sounded terrible because it was a snail, but it had flails where its antenna should be. But then I started thinking about that. I looked at some of the updated art, and I was like, oh, okay, that actually looks kind of cool. I could be in a magical
Look,
world like the Fey realm, see that coming.
art makes a role-playing game come alive a lot of times, and a lot of people
It
don't.
truly does.
They would rather have a more beautiful book than, you know, better descriptions or anything like that.
And second edition Planescape made the Modron interesting. They went from being, I'm out of monsters, so I'm going to throw my dice on the table and pretend they're monsters, to being these actual interesting race of mechanical-like beings. And they had a whole place in the order of Planescape. The one that they never fixed is the Adherer, which was originally called Gluey in White Dwarf #7.
Gluey?
It's a mummy. It's called a Gluey. And Gluey was
But Adherer is so much better.
it's so much better. It looks like a mummy, but it's not actually bandages. His skin is just loose and gross and sticky. And you, in the picture of him, I believe it depicted a sword just like laying across his chest.
So,
but no explanation.
Speaking of all of these crazy things from the Fiend Folio, let's go to the back of the book.
All right,
So,
cool. Let's do that.
Back of the book is what we do at the end of the show, where we talk about something you may not have known from role-playing games. It's maybe something we think is funny or obscure, just something that we like. And Howard, you got the back of the book today, so take it away.
While I was researching for this episode, I came across what is clearly the most boring creature that has ever existed. It is like the worst idea. I can't even imagine what they were thinking when they were like, hey, why not this? And he's called the Denzellian, no relation to Washington Denzel, because that would be interesting. It looks like a sheet of rock that lays on other rocks. It has no attacks. It has no defense. It has no treasure. It has no XP value. It looks like a rock, and you think it's a rock. If you figure out it's not a rock and choose to attack it, the only thing it has going is that it's made out of something very much like rock. And therefore has what would be in translated to 5th edition like a 20 armor class, because it was a 0 back when 10 armor class 0 was a
it was the Thaco.
So the only thing, it was so boring. It was only reprinted ever once, and that was in the the Fiendfolio Appendix for the Monsters Compendium for 2nd edition.
Okay.
And
this thing, if I'm reading it right, it says it gives you no experience points.
None. It's worthless.
It's worthless.
It's completely worthless. It moves at a rate of 1/6 of a person, because it goes like, if you had a hex map out, you would move 1 square each turn.
Cool.
That's all it can do. It has no attacks. It's not going to bite you. It's not going to do anything. He's going to move. Although I guess by 5th edition rules, he gets a move action and an attack action. He could dash and thus move too. Mine owners, though, this is a weird thing, said they would pay 1,000 gold for their eggs. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe they help to mine. They do eat rocks. Then I read they burrow at the rate of 1 foot per week. If you own a mine, I'm assuming you employ miners. And if they're only traveling at a foot per week, maybe you need better miners. I recommend dwarves, gnomes, anything that can wield a pick, really.
So why do they want their eggs? It doesn't say, does it? They're just 1,000 gold pieces
It says
because
they'll pay you 1,000 gold for that egg. I'm
maybe,
guessing the best omelet.
yeah, the tastiest stuff ever.
And even if it was decent as a miner, it's still no good to you because the eggs takes 100 years to hatch.
So I'm going to make a call to action at the end of this video. If you're watching this video to the very end, I want you to go ahead and make fan art of the Denzelian.
Sure.
Yeah, make your favorite fan art of Denzelian. Send it to me on Twitter at TrulyEvilBob. I want to see your Denzelian. I will post it. I will make sure everybody sees it. Also, subscribe, like this if you liked it, and remember, there is no level cap on life, so never stop gaining experience. I will see you later.